Welcome to Horrorsmith, the podcast, where authors and experts share the scares.
Hey everyone, my name is Lindsay Smith with Horrorsmith, the podcast, Horrorsmith Editing, and Horrorsmith Publishing. I'm here today with RJ Rolls of the Books of Horror group, and also from the Ashes Publishing Company, and also with Tiffany Koplin, who is also with Books of Horror. You all may know her from the Books of Horror Indie Brawl, and also their new AuthorCon that's coming out later this year. A lot of their subscription boxes and things like that. And so I'd like to welcome you both. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to talk with me today. RJ, I kind of want to start with you, if that's okay. Put you in the hot seat first.
Sure.
Since you are the founder of Books of Horror, can you kind of tell me how long ago you founded it, why you founded it, what you hoped it would be, and kind of how it grew to the numbers that it has?
I believe it was founded back in 2016, and back then Facebook was just a huge landscape of Stephen King fan groups. There really wasn't anything else
Right.
aside from those, and I met a lot of cool people through those groups, and me and a guy from San Antonio, Texas, became good friends, and just out of the blue, we started talking about, we like this author and this author, and it wasn't really appropriate to talk about those authors in a Stephen King specific group. So we came up with the plan to start our own group, and pitched ideas back and forth. What do we want it to be? And ultimately landed on Books of Horror.
Mm-hmm.
And basically from there is how it started. Not too long after we started the group, one of our current admins, Hans, he, if you know Hans, he's like a diehard Stephen King fan. So he came along with us and started adminning for Books of Horror as well. But what it was back then, it was just a place for everybody to come together and talk about the horror books, no matter what specific author or subgenre you were interested in. It was pretty much all inclusive even back then. So that's how the group itself started. What it has become today is, nowhere near what we imagined it back then.
Oh, I bet not.
But it's kind of crazy.
I bet. I know I joined it back in 2020, and I think when I joined it, I don't even think it had 20,000 members yet, and it just feels like in the last year or so, like the number of people that have joined the group, the number of authors who are becoming outspoken, the number of readers who are inspired to write their stories. It's taken on a life of its own. It really feels like. And the amount of work that you two and your other admins really put in, wow. It's mind-blowing. It's amazing. So when you first started Books of Horror, RJ, were you a writer then, or were you kind of inspired by the books that you were discussing and seeing and the authors who joined the group, or were you kind of already there?
When the group started, I definitely wasn't a writer then.
Mm-hmm.
But through the group, I met a few authors and became good friends with them. That would be J.Z. Foster and Justin Woodward.
Mm-hmm.
And they really, I started beta reading for them. And then that got the ideas rolling around in my head, planting the seeds. Hey, I had this idea, I had this idea. So I finally wrote a couple things, and when I felt comfortable enough, I let them read it. And then it wasn't too long after that is when I published my first book, which was Girl's Best Friend.
Mm-hmm. What
Yeah.
is that about? I haven't read that one yet.
That one, it's kind of a psychological horror thriller, and it all came about from a dream I had, which was this little girl sitting on her porch reading a book, and she becomes friends with a spider as
Oh
it's
no.
weaving its web
Mm-hmm.
on the porch. So that it's semi coming of age, goes through her life from childhood to adulthood, and it has one kind of crazy twist ending that some people see, but I don't think a lot of readers will, will see it coming.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. I did get the one that's in the Brawl now, Necronado.
Yeah.
I'm a huge zombie fan. I cannot. It's on next on my TBR. I cannot wait to read that one. I love zombies. Have you read the spider one yet, Tiffany?
I actually haven't.
That's
I
spot.
I haven't.
Okay. So, what started the Books of Horror anthologies?
The books of horror anthologies really started with, if you're a writer, then you get a lot of people coming to you saying, hey, I got this idea. You should totally write it for me. And that's one thing that writers do not need is more ideas. So it got me thinking, well, why don't I just put out this anthology call saying, hey, if you got all these ideas, you need to write the story down yourself, and I will edit it and publish it for you. And that's how the community anthologies came to be. So with those books specifically, only members of the Books of Horror group can be in those books. So
Yeah, you published one of my stories under one of my pen names.
did
I
I?
love those. Huh?
Which one? Like which volume?
It was a white one.
Oh, okay.
The
That
first
was
white one. I think it
volume
was the
3.
first one you had to do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. I love those anthologies. They're fantastic. And it's kind of sad though, because sometimes I'll read an author and I can't find anything else that they've ever written. But that one story is so great and you just wish they would write more. But I think those anthologies are so encouraging, and it's almost like they don't ever want to write the story because they don't believe in themselves, or they see all these authors who are doing some really amazing things and they're a little overwhelmed, or maybe a little intimidated, but you kind of give them a safe space to kind of encourage their own creativity. And I love that. And I hope. Here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that in 2 years, you're going to have so many people contributing to it that you're going to have 3 or 4 volumes.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak that into existence because they are such fantastic books and I love them. So I know that you have a publishing house, From the Ashes, that I think you run with your wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that just for the anthologies, or is that for are you guys open to novel submissions or what?
So From the Ashes started late last year, and really at the moment I'm only interested in doing themed anthologies. Each one has a theme, something fun, like
Mhm.
I like to think outside the box, do horror that is not really, you don't see very much of.
Yeah.
As to being open to submissions for novels and stuff, I have had a ton of people ask me to publish their books, and point blank, I usually ask them, what do you think that I'm going to do that you're not going to be able to do for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all, I mean, if you're not seeking out an agent when you start writing, or, when you start publishing, it's all indie publishing anyway. So there's nothing that I can do that you're not going to have to do already. Even if I was to publish your novel, you're still going to have to push it and everything else. That's just the nature of indie publishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I encourage people to do it themselves, learn the business. Like, I didn't know everything out the gate. So it's been trial and error for years of doing this. And I just think that a lot of people should consider self-publishing more than rather seeking out a publishing house. Just for that reason, like, you're in control of your own work. Why wouldn't you want to have that? But I mean, I get there's some, like Crystal Lake Publishing is doing great work, and then there's Darklit Press, and then you have Cemetery Dance. Do you consider that traditional, or is that indie publishing?
I'd consider those still indie. I don't think any of them are very mainstream yet.
Yep. So, I mean, you get recognition when you go into those types of publishing deals, but at the end of the day, it's going to be you. Nobody's going to care about your work more than you, regardless.
Right.
So, I'm not saying never, but currently, I don't think I'm going to publish anybody under the From the Ashes banner.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one thing working with Tiffany and the indie horror box, indie book boxes, is a lot of the stories that she's putting in there are people that I've got to meet over the years, especially with the Books of Horror Community Anthologies. She'll ask me who should I be looking at, who should I consider, and I'll be like, well, I'll go back to the well and look through the author lists and be like, well, this person had this story and it was pretty amazing, so maybe they would be willing to, submit some work to you. And just, I don't know, like, I lost it.
It's okay. I completely understand what you're saying. Like, I see it from two different ways, because I started out in this business as a self-published author who had no idea what I was doing. Nothing, not a clue. And then I started taking editing classes and finishing my degrees, and it kind of spiraled from there, and I ended up forming, my editing company. And so I've worked primarily with self-published authors who do it all themselves, and they get their covers themselves, and they get their editing and their marketing, and they take classes and they collaborate, and it's so much work, but it's so much of a reward on top of that. But then I also saw it the other side, the people who may not have the time to put into the editing. Usually that's usually a holdup. The editing, or they struggle with just kind of getting the ball rolling on the marketing. And so that's why I opened Horrorsmith Publishing. And I don't know who some of the other publishing houses use for editing. I don't know who they have. But it helps that we have one on staff. And so really the only thing that I've had to kind of step outside the box on, really, from what I do in my normal day-to-day, is really just promoting them and helping them with that. So I think usually for the people who want to go with the indie publishing houses, it's usually a cost thing, an
Yeah.
upfront cost that they're scared they're not going to recoup, even though we know that their stories are fantastic. It's that imposter syndrome, man. It just gets you, I think.
Yeah, I see that with the usually a cover and then the editing services
Mm-hmm.
are the biggest hurdles. But I mean, you just have to, like you said, that's something you offer with Horrorsmith, which is great. And I think any of the indie publishing houses do that. So you got that. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with seeking out one of the publishers to do that for you. But also, I would recommend to authors, especially starting out, to learn the business regardless, because it's only going to help them. Like, as long as, even if they stay with indie publishing houses, it'll, give them a peek behind the curtains of how it does work and what to
Right.
expect and what to, ask in return.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah.
So just don't stop learning the business when you sell your book or, get a deal with somebody. Like, keep learning. Like,
Right.
and as to marketing, there's no way to learn marketing because marketing changes constantly.
That is so true. That is so true. And it's like the platforms, the marketing platforms are constantly changing. Like, I don't think Facebook ads have remained the same for any extended period of time. They're constantly changing, and now they have all this like behind the scenes AI algorithm stuff, and you're not actually doing it. It's
Yeah.
the Facebook robot that's doing it. So yeah. And then now I know kind of like the new thing that a lot of authors are trying to do now is moving away from Amazon and moving direct, and they're starting that with their signed copies. I know I see that a lot in the Books of Horror group, where they're saying, sign copies on my website or on Etsy. But a lot of them are moving their ebooks to there now and take them out of Kindle Unlimited. And so that's a whole new monster. There's so many moving pieces to the publishing industry. And so in order to be in order to do yourself justice as a self-published author, or even to be part of a collaborative team and a helpful part of your team with your indie publisher, if that's the route that you choose, like, you absolutely have to know the business, and you have to be willing to put yourself out there and be willing to participate, because if you're not, there's only so much your indie publishing house can do. Each week, Horrorsmith the podcast tries to offer our viewers a writing, publishing, or just a business resource that we think is going to help you no matter what industry you are a professional in. And this week, I want to encourage you to look at a resource by a gentleman named Jason McDonald. He is a professor of SEO studies and social platform communications, things like that, at Stanford Continuing Studies. And he's written this book called Social Media Marketing Workbook. This is very, very reminiscent, if you have ever bought those grade school helpers for your children and they're very, very thick. It was very daunting when I received this from Amazon, but it is updated for 2024, and I've already gone through a great portion of it. He links a lot of his material to external websites that you have access to, whether you have this printed version of the workbook or if you got the ebook edition. I went ahead and printed out all of the worksheets so you could kind of see how many of them there would be. And I've also started going through a couple of them. He talks about marketing in general, what SEO does, how marketing and branding helps you as an author, helps you as a company. And then he goes on to do a deep dive into each of the individual social media platforms. There's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. There's even a smaller section on email marketing. There's information on Yelp. It's I found it to be really, really interesting. It tells you how to analyze the market, analyze other people in your industry who are kind of doing the same thing you are, who are just maybe having a little bit more success in social media. It helps you. My light just went out. It helps you analyze whether or not the tools that they're using are going to be more effective for your business, or if it's something that maybe you want to do later, if it's something that you want to initiate now. I think it's really great, and I would highly suggest that if you just aren't comfortable with social media, you aren't sure how to direct all of your post to your brand, if you're not sure the right time to post, when to post, the days of the weeks to post, what kind of marketing copy you need to have for each different ad, what each different posts function is, and it's just really great information. So I would highly suggest it. I'll be putting a link down below, but you can definitely find this on Amazon. You can probably even find it direct. He does all of his okay, yeah, I was looking at his paperwork. All of his stuff comes from a website called JM Internet Group. And so that's www.jm-seo.org. And so that's where a lot of his printouts and the modules are. And you can probably, I haven't checked, I should have checked, but you can probably go and purchase it directly from him. Just so all of you know, if you do purchase books, workbooks, any sort of resource from any author directly off of their website, you are kind of circumventing Amazon and the other large distributing platforms who do take a large chunk from authors. So you would actually be really, really helpful and a huge indie author supporter if that's the method that you purchase your books from now on, just as a heads up. But I would highly, highly recommend this if you're looking to kind of overhaul your brand and really put a lot more focus into some of the free social media options that there are for marketing your business. But I hope this helps, and I look forward to bringing you another tip next week. And I've noticed that a lot. I think I've seen some authors kind of comment in books of horror that their books aren't getting seen as much as they'd like. And I think a lot of that comes down to just relying on you and, and on Tiffany and on the group itself to promote their books versus learning the industry and all of the legwork that you have to do outside of it. And, because books of horror is such a wonderful tool to use, but it shouldn't be the only thing that they're doing. And
Exactly.
so, yeah,
Yep.
How are you doing,
Yeah, I like
Tiffany?
to tell people it's a platform, really. Like, it
Mhm.
is a community, but it's a platform.
Right.
And, all the admins, when necessary, we come together and we establish those rules that we've set into place to kind of protect the authors from themselves, because over saturation of self promotion is just going to harm them at the end of the day.
Right.
And so our rules are pretty simple in that, mention your book, then mention 2 or 3 other books. That's not
Right.
your own. Like, raise other people up as you would like to be raised up yourself. I mean, it's as simple as that. Like, publishing's
I,
hard, writing's hard, but
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of authors don't understand that one of the ways that people get to know you is get to know what you like to read, what books made you like want to write. What was the big pivotal book that just turned you on to horror and said, "Oh, I love this genre"?
Mhm.
Those kind of posts are the ones that other people who are readers will be like, "Oh, I felt the same way about this book, and I'm going to try and give that guy I'm going to read his book."
Yeah.
And authors feel like what they don't understand is they feel like if they just keep promoting their book, somebody's going to read it, but they don't realize that the readers actually got to get to know them first
Right.
in the group. And the ones that have done that are the ones that do very well, because they understand, like, I need to express what I love about reading, what genres I love, like the subgenres, and then they find their readers that way.
Mhm.
So, and I just think it's sad because I do get messages like every week from an author saying, your book, group is not working for me because nobody's reading my books. So why is nobody like making me popular? That I get that question at least once a week, and they just don't understand. This book group was supposed to make me popular, and that's not why we have the book group. We have the book group to talk about books.
Right.
So it's just kind of,
yeah.
that's not how it works.
So since you brought it up, what was the book that got you into horror? I'm
For
asking
me,
you, Tiffany. For you, yeah. Since you brought it up.
Probably when I was in 4th grade, I loved Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and then of course Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, like I read the children's version of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and then Scary Stories. I think I read all of those as they were coming out. I was obsessed.
You remember there was one in there, and the image was like this guy, and he was kind of short and weird, and he had like a really big eye, and the story was just about he had like a knife under his coat or something. That was the one from the Scary Stories that scared me so bad. I remembered that one, and it gave me nightmares, and I don't even know why. But I love those. I actually ordered a hardback copy of all of them together. I loved those. Those and Mary Downing Hahn. I loved her ghost books. And then after that, I kind of graduated to R.L. Stine, of course. I think we all hit R.L. Stine at some point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
where I
like a
come
rite of
into it.
passage.
Yeah. Definitely
Okay.
a Goosebumps kid for sure.
I kind of skipped Goosebumps. I never got into them as much. And I'm kind of sad about it because it seems like there's more of those than there were the Fear Street ones. And so now I'm collecting them. I don't know if you guys can see them on my shelf. I'm collecting all of the vintage Fear Street books because I didn't get to read them all. So I'm going to now. But there's so many more Goosebumps, I feel like. And I feel gypped, but I can't get into that into that series because it wasn't part of my childhood, I guess.
Yeah. You can always go back as an adult. I've gone back and read some of them and loved them just as much.
Right. Well, see, I'm behind on my Stephen King reading too. Like, I haven't read the Dark Tower series yet, and everyone's always talking about that, and I just smile and nod. And there's a few of them I haven't read. My favorite of his, though, was one that everyone hates. So I never have anyone to talk to about it, and I'm kind of sad. I loved Lissy's Story.
Oh,
yeah. See,
that's one that I haven't read yet.
Okay. So if you read that one, keep in mind that there is a lot of nonsense words. They don't make sense, literally at all, throughout the entire freaking book. But they do make sense at the end. But it's a whole lot to get through before you get to that. So most of the people I've read hate it.
It's on my radar. I'll get to it.
You're just not going to move it up too high. I get it. I won't take offense. No.
But I have read the Dark Tower books.
You have?
Yeah.
Is it a must read or no?
I think it is a must read eventually. Maybe not immediately, but eventually.
Okay.
And everybody's favorite book in that series is my least favorite. So there's that. So that's, you know, everybody's got different opinions and we can all respect each other's.
Right. Look at you. Yeah. Okay. So the upcoming AuthorCon that you guys are doing, what was it called again?
Books and Brews.
Books and Brews. Okay. What got that started?
Actually, I was helping a woman in Milwaukee get authors for her. I forgot what it's called. Spooky Frog. Sorry, I'm getting so much feedback.
Oh.
So hopefully you can. So I was helping her get some authors for that one, and then I had messaged Deborah Castaneda and asked her if she would be interested, and at that time she just couldn't. And then the same thing with Jonathan Jans, and he couldn't. But both of them had messaged me back in the same day saying, if you ever do anything in Chicago, I'll come. And then it was just kind of one of these things where I thought about it, because a lot of authors had told me, you need to do something in Chicago. The Chicago area doesn't have anything. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to do it. And it ended up being just a snowball. Yeah. It was a really hard thing to find a venue. The venue was really, really hard to find. A lot of places don't want to call you back if it's like a new event that you're going to be doing, especially because those kind of days are Saturdays and that's their big money-making days. So it was either I like put out a ton of money or they just didn't want to do it.
Oh, no.
So it was kind of one of those things. But yeah, it ended up snowballing. I found the venue, and then I put out a bunch of feelers to authors, like, are you interested in this? Like, authors that would be a big draw for the group, the ones that the group wanted. I originally was going to put tables out for authors to be able to purchase, to have, but then it just, a lot of the authors, as I was getting more and more authors, a lot of the authors came back saying, you know what, I decided I do want to go. And then I had just went to Scarelastic, and Josh Hall does it to where it's just an invite only, and it worked out so much better. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't a bunch of people that, you know, like you didn't know and stuff. It was all people that he knew and he had a good relationship and everything like that with. And it just flowed very, very well. And I just decided, you know what, I only have so many tables, and it seemed like more and more people wanted to come. So I ended up deciding to just start cold messaging a lot of the members that I see that are very, very active. And I was just like, give me a list. Like, if you were to go to an event, who would you want to see? And then as I was getting like these 10, I only did 10 people, but all 10 of those people had pretty much the same list. And so I just went off of there, and it ended up that I got pretty much everybody I wanted. There was 2 I didn't get, but pretty much everybody I wanted is coming, and I'm still in shock.
That's so awesome. I can't wait to see how it turns out. I used to live in Chicago. That's a beautiful area. I'm assuming that's where you live?
I live in Rockford, which is like an hour and a half west, but the event is going to be in Evanston.
Okay.
And it's at a big brewery there, and I think the brewery's only been around for like around 3 years or so.
Okay.
So
you're kind of helping each other out. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
I lived in Schaumburg, so.
That's a great area.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. So, our readers, how is it going to work for the readers who want to go? Like, are they, for anyone who's coming to the area, is like, can they go? Whatever reader wants to go, or
it's open to anybody. We are going to do a VIP from 10 to 11. And then early access from 11 to 12:30. We're just figuring it kind of spreads the people coming in. Yeah. And then from 12:30 to 4, it's just free and open. So everybody can come, can buy books from the authors. They can get stuff signed. They can bring their own books to have signed. None of the authors have told me that they're not going to do that. I think everybody's just so excited. But I have had a lot of people say that they are excited for the Halloween box. So I think I still am going to do that. Yeah. You know, and then that should be like far enough in advance to where it'll be after all of this stuff goes on. Because I know everybody is saving their money for AuthorCon right now. Right. I did not realize how much money people do spend at AuthorCon, but I've heard some people save usually a couple $1,000. Mm-hmm. So, and I had no idea.
No, I wouldn't have thought that either.
I would have thought I've heard people take extra suitcases just for their books.
Yes, yeah. I've seen that. I think it was Scares That Care. I saw a few after that one of the boxes that they were shipping back home with their books. And I was like, whoa, that's impressive. Wow. That's cool though. That just speaks to how supportive the horror genre is and the readers and, how the authors are touching these people's lives. And I think that's great. I'm excited about the Halloween box, though. That's a great way to celebrate the spooky season. I'll never pass up.
Halloween box did really well last year. I think we did 300. It sold out in like 10 days. It was a great box. It was a really great box. The amount of stuff you got in there for how much you paid was crazy. I mean, like, I barely made that much money off of them, but it was packed. It had 4 chapbooks that had never been out before. It had Mike Salt's Hollow, and then you got it came with a thermos cup, like a travel tumbler, and then it had a really nice satchel bag, like a messenger bag, and then it had like another bag, like a drawstring bag to put your books in. It had so many different bookmarks and stickers and everything from all different kinds of authors. It was a really great box. I plan on doing another really, really great box again for that. But other than that, I'm not going to be doing any boxes, but I will do just packs of books. So.
each week, I try to give our viewers a quick editing tip, something to help you with your writing process throughout the week, to help your writing be a little bit cleaner, to help you during the self-editing process, whatever it might be. But this week, I've decided to do something a little bit different, something a little bit more in-depth. And this is because I have been in a lot of author groups this week. I've seen a lot of the same questions, and I've seen a lot of misinformation being given. And this comes from the perspective of a professional editor who sees a lot of untrained editors or authors who have followed untrained editors giving a lot of information that's not clear. It's not inclusive. It's not accurate. And so I wanted you to have a space where you could come back, review, just as a resource for later if you ever need the information again. And this is mainly about the different tiers of editing, what they entail, and how they can help you elevate your manuscript. I think it's important to note that this light sucks. This is the second time it's gone out. That's okay. So I think it's important to note that each editor that you come across is going to be subjective. Whatever they offer in their business plan for the different tiers of editing may not be what the next editor offers. And this may be why they are able to offer a different rate, why their rates are a little bit on the higher end, whatever it may be. So be sure to research that when you are looking for an editor and you've determined what tier of editing your manuscript needs. Now, with that being said, the first tier of editing that I'm going to discuss is one that you don't hear about very often. And so it's called a manuscript evaluation. Now, if I were to just give you a really, really quick definition of it, I would say it's a light developmental edit. And of course, if you don't know the tiers of editing, you're like, well, what the hell is that? So a manuscript evaluation is going to look at the strengths and struggles of your manuscript, what you have going for you, what you can enhance to make the story in your writing stronger, but also kind of where your story falls flat, anything that's kind of missing, anything that's really ambiguous, anything that is really going to take the reader out of the story. Now, what's different about a manuscript evaluation and a developmental edit, which basically does the same thing, is the thoroughness involved, the deliverables involved, and also the editor's intent. Now, for a manuscript evaluation, that editor is not necessarily going to go in depth and tell you how to fix the issues or how to enhance your strengths to improve your manuscript. Their intent is to identify the problems and let you know what you need to do to fix it as far as a game plan going forward. So like if your characters are great, but your story's falling flat in the middle, then this editor may say, hey, your issue is that your story is falling flat in the middle. You're going to need a developmental edit to help fix this. Or this is what you need to address. They don't actually go into the very specific line by line. Hey, this is, this is exactly where it's falling flat. And these are some options to do to fix it. Let's brainstorm. Let's talk about this. Here's some options. What if this character does this to do this to do this? That's what you would get in a developmental edit. You would get that editor giving you substantial, actionable items that can help you elevate your manuscript and take it further. So while the manuscript evaluation identifies those issues and then gives you a game plan going forward, The developmental edit already recognizes that your game plan is to do a developmental edit. So the intent is not to give you a game plan going forward. The intent is to help you fix the issues within your story. So you would get the identification of the issues. You would get the identification of the stronger points in the novel, the stronger points in your writing, and you would get a lot more bang for your buck with a developmental edit. So the deliverables with a manuscript evaluation are just a few, usually maybe some initial reaction comments throughout the manuscript, and then you get what we call an editorial letter. And for different editors, the layout of that editorial letter is different. Mine includes a lot of breakdown information about the characters, about the timeline of your novel, about what each chapter, how each chapter kind of helped progress the story, and then I break down the strengths, the struggles, the hook effectiveness, the satisfactory conclusion, genre expectations, writing elements, craft elements. Those two are different, and all of that. I break down each of your characters. Like it's fairly in depth. Sometimes it gets to be 20 plus pages. For a developmental edit, you would get the same thing, except you'd also get a book map, which I would also explain. There's, a phone consultation if you want it. But I also include really extremely detailed notes throughout the actual manuscript itself, which will reference different parts in the manuscript evaluation. So the two work in tandem. And so when you walk away from a developmental edit, you walk away with, you know exactly what to do to fix your narrative arc, how that's going to affect the rest of your story going forward. There's not going to be anything missed with that. And so once you have your story done, when your story's in a good place, then you're going to be looking at line and copy editing. Line and copy editing are the only two tiers of editing that can be done at the same time. If you have an editor who says that they're going to do your developmental edit and your copy edit at the same time, that is an untrained editor. That cannot be done. It makes literally no sense to do a developmental edit and have maybe substantial changes to chapters, paragraphs, whole sections of the novel, and then to have to go back and redo a line and copy edit and all the stuff that was added. Like, that's a huge waste of time. Do not do that. That's not how it works. I feel like that's like an Allstate commercial or something. That's not how any of this works. So with your line and copy editing, that's where, instead of looking at your manuscript from the bird's eye view, we're looking at your manuscript by sentences. So I can look at the sentence. I can recognize if it matches the flow of that scene, if the cadence is really similar to other sentences in that vicinity, and maybe it needs to be restructured a little bit to kind of add some sentence variety. I can recognize if you've used very repetitive word usage, if you have been redundant in your details, if you like maybe if this paragraph down here, if a line in it is awkward but would fit better up there, and of course then you're missing commas, quotation marks, periods, dangling modifiers, all that fun stuff. So that's really what that is. And then your proofreading is once everything's been edited before. I normally do not offer proofreading to a manuscript that has not been looked over by an editor before. I know some editors who require that the manuscript actually be formatted before they'll actually do the proofread on it. There are a couple of my author clients that have worked with me for so long, and their manuscripts are so clean, because I do try to help impart some knowledge and help teach them as we go. And so I will absolutely look at their stuff and be like, yeah, you just need a proofread. I'm not going to charge you for a line and copy edit. That's not necessary. And but proofreading is generally where not a lot of edits are going to be made. This is going to be for during the line and copy edit section. Like sometimes when you're integrating some of the track changes, it can integrate an error, an extra space. It can maybe not delete a comma that at the string of a sentence that someone was trying to take out. Or maybe a random word got left out, whatever it may be. We all have used Word before. We know that it messes up. So whatever happens in that point, the proofreading stage is your last line of defense to make sure that none of that gets past you. And so that way your book is in really genuine publishable condition. And so I wouldn't recommend skipping it, but also don't go into it expecting line and copy edit depth of changes if you are very, very adamant that you only want to proofread. That's kind of, it's kind of going against the system a little bit. So book coaching. This is one, again, that you don't see used very often in the indie horror community. And I don't see it a lot in speculative fiction as well. I see this a lot more personally in memoir sections, or in brand new authors who really need help learning how to do a book from concept to completion, and then all of the editing stages after. And so book coaching is someone who will stand beside you, help you flesh out your concept, help you flesh out your outline, help keep you on track throughout all of the chapters. And we all know that your characters get to talking somewhere in the middle, and you may have a very linear path that you want to take, and your character wants to take the next exit, and no one has a map for that. So a book coach is really going to help you go through that area, and help you navigate that, and let you deviate, but also help you get back on track and help you finish the book where you wanted it to go. And then, of course, follow it up with the editing. So they're also going to keep you on track with your weekly word counts, with inspiration, help you brainstorm if you hit writer's block. So it's a very, very immersive experience. And I would really, really advise an author doing it at least once in your life. Like it's so much fun, and it's so rewarding for both. It's a huge team effort. And it does come with a heftier price tag, but it's a lot of fun. So that's what each of the tiers of editing is. Can I have a day off? But that should help you kind of keep track. I will try to eventually post something, maybe a blog or something. For those of you who may not want to come back and listen to me ramble for a really long time. But I promise next week's editing episode is going to be a lot shorter. But thank you for sticking with me through it. I appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great week. Like, let's say someone didn't get one of those boxes, but they want to buy like a tote for Books and Brews. Like, is there a place where they can go to buy a Books of Horror tote, or if they want to wear like a Books of Horror shirt and they don't have one already? Do you guys have a place where they can go to buy that stuff?
Yes, actually, Jessica RJ's wife has a huge Etsy store with anything you can think of. It has like any of the logos on there and stuff, which is awesome. And it's From the Ashes by RJ Rolls. That's what the Etsy store is. I have a Etsy store too with stuff from the boxes that I have done in certain limited t-shirts and things like that. But yeah, so and mine is called Indie Book Boxes. So both of us, between the both of them, you could definitely find something.
Oh, look at that. I love that. Read to live, live to read. I love that. That is stunning.
Okay, so Deborah Cold Iron, she does pretty much all of the stuff that I do. Like I put on shirts. I do have a couple of other artists I have worked with, but Deborah Cold Iron is the best. She's the best of the best. RJ and I, we use her for everything. She is worth every penny you pay her. She is amazing. And anybody who has used her, it like comes back and says, "Oh my God, why didn't I use her sooner? Why haven't I, how did I not know about her?" And when we were at Scarelastic, so many of the Books of Horror members were super excited when they saw that she was there. And she had so many fans. We've had, there was a couple of other authors that were there that left their booth just so that they could talk to her because they're so impressed with everything she does.
Does she do just like logos and t-shirt design, or does she do like covers and that sort of thing too? Do you know?
She does it all. She does.
Wow. Okay. I haven't heard her mentioned a lot. So yeah, I'll definitely find her information and link that below too.
She's amazing. She did a cover for one of the chapbooks in the winter box.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. It was for Edmund Stone's book, and I forgot what it was called, but oh my gosh, it was just amazing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
She did my From the Ashes logo.
I love that logo. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. She did that logo.
Awesome. I love it when illustrators and cover artists get the credit for the work that they do, because they seriously make or break our merchandise and our covers and our marketing. And so they deserve all the credit that they get. And I love that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Is she going to be at Books and Brews?
Yes.
Oh, awesome.
She is going to have her own table. Her and her husband actually made pottery, like these coffee mugs.
How cool.
Oh, he's got it.
Oh, that is stunning. Look at that.
That is all handmade. They even did the glaze themselves.
Wow.
And throne mugs is what they're called.
Wow.
She sold them for way too cheap, and everybody yelled at her about it.
And they sold out instantly.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, she was a superstar. When we were there, everybody surrounded her booth. She brought posters. I mean, she works on so much stuff. She is a backbone. Anytime we need something, I can message her and be like, "Oh, I forgot about this and I need this for a box in 4 days," and she'll work all night on it for me. She's awesome. Amazing. But awesome. There's also been some other really great artists that have gotten their start from working with RJ and I, which has been really awesome to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
Does she do the covers for your anthologies too?
Deb, she's never done a cover for me yet, but she has a cover in the waiting. She's working on something with us. It's going to be pretty awesome.
Ooh, secrets. We don't keep secrets around here, okay?
Deb is the type of person that, it's that type of person where they're so talented and then they're so nice. It just makes you so sick, you know? That's Deb right there. In a nutshell.
You want to be jealous, but you just can't be.
She's just too talented.
She also writes.
I didn't know.
I did. Yep, I forgot. I published her story in Season of the Witch from the Ash.
Okay, I remember that anthology.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll have to go back. I don't remember her story, but I'm gonna go back.
She
Awesome.
writes, she arts, she creates.
Yeah. Multi-talented. I think I've played with clay one time and I made a little wizard and all of his arms and his hat fell off while it was cooking and firing. I think that's what it's called. And I never went back. I give her props. That mug looked amazing. That was amazing. So since we were talking about anthologies, we kind of keep going back to it. When is your next one, RJ?
My next one, so this year for 2024, I wanted to try something different with anthologies, and that is usually when I do an open call for an anthology, I open the floodgates for about 2 months or 60 days and take submissions. And then me and one of my friends and authors, Mike Innenbach, got to talking about a different strategy with that. And I think you even started doing it with yours, maybe, that I've seen something with your anthologies where you kind of announce the anthology and the theme about 3 months before you actually open, the submission period. So the submission period is going to be a month long instead of 2 months long, but I've been telling people since January about the theme and the guidelines for the story that they would write. And so the April 1st through April 31st is going to be the official submission period for Hootenanny Horror Show, which is Appalachian redneck horror stories.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
So yes.
Wow.
Aside from that, I have a anthology in the works for this fall, which is a continuation of one that I put out last fall, which is Dead Girls and Dead Things. So I'm going to try and make that an annual anthology, because the Books of Horror anthologies being so big, I kind of do them now every other year instead of every year, because it probably takes 4 months to get through the submissions.
Oh, I believe
for those
it.
books. So
how many submissions do you usually get for those?
This past one, it was well over 120, and I think I ended up publishing 109 of those stories.
Wow.
So I try not to, reject anyone, and then some people, once the book gets so big, I kind of have to start taking things out, because you can only do such, a print count, page count for Amazon, who I print through. So I have to scale down the books that way. And one of the first things to go in this last one was reprint stories, which I've done in the past with Books of Horror, reprinted from more established authors and things, just so they can be included and get their work out there. But this last go around, I had to cut them out. So that was one of the things that goes. But yeah, that's been the biggest submission count that I've had so far, which is close to 130 stories for that one volume. I think I've received upwards of 70 when I do some of the From the Ashes anthos. So that that in itself, whittling that down to usually 15 stories. So
yeah.
And then I've gone beyond that and accepted sometimes 19 stories if I just can't decide, and I'm like, I gotta have it. But that makes for a bigger book too. But I like to include everybody when I can.
Right, of course.
That's the hardest part of the job of doing anthologies, is sending out them rejections, because Also, being an author yourself, you don't want that rejection, so you know
No.
what you're sending out when you do it.
Mm-hmm. You know the feeling.
I try some of the books. I try to do more targeted rejections and give as much feedback as I can instead of a blanket rejection. You
I
know?
love that. That's awesome. So many people don't take the time to do
But
that.
yeah, I think it helps eases and it opens up, you know, a dialogue between you and that author that maybe down the line blossoms into something more, and hopefully you get to work together on something, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
But going back to the second anthology for this year, it will be Dead Girls and Dead Things 2, which is through Books of Horror, and I want to do it annually. And I work with Angelique Jordana on those books. And there's no real theme to those books aside from every author in them will be a woman author. So
Okay, that's cool.
that's the only
Awesome.
requirement. And I usually, it's invite only. Angelique does the inviting and I do the publishing. So,
That's awesome.
yep.
I look forward to that.
Which is also Tiffany's current theme for her indie box. Is it's an
Okay.
all woman's indie box, isn't it?
Yes, yes. I have 4 authors: Candace Nola, Lisa
Mhm.
Vasquez, and then Angel Venata. I was really excited to get an Angel Venata story. And then Yolanda Spetsos, which is from Darklit. So when I talked to Darklit, he showed me all the stuff he had, and that book looks amazing. I'm excited to read it. So yeah, I was really excited to get Candace Nola, and then she helped me get Lisa Vasquez, and then I talked with Angel Venata. So I feel like that women's box is amazing.
And
It
when is that
just
going out?
turned out amazing.
When does that one go out?
It's already out, and we still
Okay.
have boxes left, so people can buy them and snatch them up. And it's 65, and it comes with this crazy flashlight that extends to be like 2 feet, and it is bendable, and it's very magnetic. So, like, if you drop something, it'll pick up your keys or
Oh, how
nail
cool.
clippers or a pen. And then
That's
you also get
cool.
like a box cutter keychain. I wrapped it up really good, and I put on there in a bright green thing, keep out of reach of children before they
Yeah.
open it. And then also like it's a water resistant bag that you can put your books in when you're traveling.
Okay. That's so cool. And they can get that on your Etsy store?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to wrap it up for you guys because I don't want to keep you all night. I can talk. I can talk on these things. But I really want to thank you both for taking the time to go over your publishing and the Books of Horror group and the anthologies and the books and brews like that. So much great information, and you two are really such an inspiration for like one of my mottos and something that I try to take with me every day is a rising tide lifts all ships. And
Yep.
so it's definitely all about reciprocating and making sure that we support everyone else around us as much as we want that support ourselves. And to see 2 people embody that who are also in charge of one of the biggest horror groups ever, that's so inspirational, and it's amazing. And I love everything that you two do, and I really wanted to put it out there. And I definitely want to have you guys back later, like after everything's calmed down and you've experienced your first books and brew, and you guys have a whole bunch of other things planned and closer to the end of the year, because I'm just so excited at everything you guys are doing. But thank you for taking the time out of your days to speak to me.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for listening to Horrorsmith, the podcast. Beware, the scares may stay with you. We'll see you next time.